everyone! I know I haven't done a Friday Reads video in quite a while, but today, since it's not a Friday, I wanted to do a recent reads. So I'm hoping to do that and continue on in the future. I can't promise if there's going to be one this Friday, but there will be one sometime soon. So in this kind of series, we talk about like what I have recently read and also what I'm currently reading and what I'm going to read next. I have a few friends that also do Friday reads, and I'll put them in the description box below. Now, if you want to know about any of my recent reads, I have my Goodreads linked below, and also I have a blog, and that blog is sarasreadingnook.ca. If you go to the blog, on Sundays I write a Sunday post, and it has all of this sort of information but in blog format and gives a little update about, how our week has been. Alright, so the first book that I recently finished is a book that I have read for my July TBR game, and that is Surviving the City Volume 1. Now this is a great book. So basically it's about womanhood, friendship, colonialism, and the anguish of a missed loved one. So you have two best friends, Mikwon and Des. So Des, her grandmother becomes sick, and she's told that she can no longer live with her grandmother. So this makes her very fearful of having to go back home and be relocated to a group home. And so she disappears, which of course her friend Mikwon becomes very, very concerned about. And so it's very short, but even though it's super short, it's like really emotional to read it. I really was tearing up when I was reading it because you really feel for Des and, her love of her grandmother and just this fear of what to do next with having little control of her circumstances. There are figures that are in the graphic novel, and I don't want to say too much, but they provide a very eerie atmosphere. And of course the book is to bring light to missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I just thought it was such a great book, and I think that you should read it. I also finished Radium Girls, which is another graphic novel. For Radium Girls, watch out in the next month or so. I'm going to have my full review on my blog and also on Goodreads. So yeah, just some things that I really loved about this book. The story is super interesting. In the early 1900s, there are women who are painting these dials at sort of a factory, I believe. And so they are instructed to lick the brush and dip that into the paint. And in doing so repeatedly over time, they develop this radium poisoning, which initially radium poisoning, it leads to like decay and pain with like teeth and bone and joints, but eventually it's fatal. And so this is a very grim sort of book to read. So Radium Girls was very easy to read and flip through. It didn't take very long to read at all. And I feel that the illustrations were very simple to read. It's interesting because there is just a very specific color palette that's used within the book, and it is a purple and green color palette, and it's used throughout the entire book. At the end, it talks a little bit about, what legal actions were taken and exactly how, workers' rights were formed in terms of occupational hazards, such as for something like radium poisoning. And my last book is Wild Seed Witch, which I will have a review on my blog soon. So now let's talk about Wild Seed Witch. This is the last book that I finished last week, and it is about a young witch in training. So she goes to this finishing school for young witches where she learns to use her powers, and it's just really cute. There's cats in the book. There's a very big cat moment in the book that I really enjoyed. And so our main character, Hassani, she is a YouTuber. So you see her learn to start her own makeup channel. I thought that was really cute. And you're rooting for her. You're rooting for her to do well in terms of her magical capabilities, in terms of making friends, in terms of, succeeding in her YouTube-ness. And yeah, I just really, really loved it. So all of the 3 books that I recently read are really good, and I recommend them all, but of course I'll have more detailed reviews like on Goodreads and on my blog. So let's move on to what I'm currently reading. So I'm currently reading A History of Women in the World, and this is volume 1, and it is a nonfiction book. Now, what I find so fascinating is that this really goes over different roles of women in various societies across the world over time. So it is just totally fascinating. So this goes to prehistory, ancient Egypt, China, India, Peru, Mexico, Greece, and Rome, and etc. It also goes over all like societal inputs and pressures which have affected women over time. There's also an examination of various religions over time and how it's affected women in various societies too. So it's really cool, really fascinating. The only thing I'll say is that this is from 2008. So I think that we have, more knowledge to build on in that time. However, this is looking at history. So, our maybe lens at which we look through it may have changed over time. So it's really interesting, really cool. I think I'm like 30-something% of the way through, and I am going to hopefully, finish the rest of it tonight. All right, and the other book I'm reading is for my July TBR game, which honestly, just about everything should be for my July TBR game because I am not sure if I'm going to finish all of my books. Okay, so it's called Always Never. It's a graphic novel by Jordi Lefebvre, and I've talked about this before. So it is a graphic novel that shows a 40-year love story, but through in reverse. And it has really high ratings. I'm reading it on Hoopla. I will say that I'm not so far into it that I'm super invested into the characters. Where it starts off is at a really cute moment, and then so you're going back in time. So I'm trying to understand what the story behind both of them is, but I'm kind of lukewarm about it. I'll give it a shot. I'm not that big a fan of the art style. And the story, I just don't really feel like I want to pick it back up again. But I will finish it. And, I'm only 10% of the way through, so hopefully it will become a lot better as I go through. But, we'll see how it goes, and I hope that it will pick up soon. All right, and I have 3 books that I am going to be reading next. So again, I talked about I Am a Cat by Sosuke Natsume. I talked about this book in my July TBR game. So if you don't know already, this book is a classic in Japanese literature. It's about a wandering kitten, and so this kitten spends all of his time observing human nature. So I don't quite know what kind of narrative voice the cat is going to take, but I'm interested to see what it will be like. I mean, it is a kitten, so we'll see, kind of new to the world, but I think that this is supposed to be a very good commentary on human nature in general. So the cover, it does say a nonchalant string of anecdotes and wisecracks. This cat has never caught a mouse, apparently, but yeah, looking forward to it. It is large, though. I don't know how this TBR game is going to go, but I'm looking forward to it. I also have a lot like audios to look forward to. This will be just kind of a shortish romance, and it's a second chance romance. Cool. So the only thing about this is that I haven't read the first book in this series, but I'm hoping that I can just kind of read it as is, and then if I really enjoy this one, to read book 1 in the series, which is You Had Me at Hola. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I just think that this will be just very good because it's summertime, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. And finally, the last book that I'm going to read is Lore. And so this has some Greek mythology intertwined in it. I think that this will be especially interesting to read because I am reading the women's history book. And so they do talk about not just what happened in ancient Greece, but also ancient Greek mythology. So that will be really cool. Looking forward to it. And then I also have 2 NetGalley books that have come my way. Both I really kind of just want to read right now as it is. The first is A Treacherous Tale by Elizabeth Penny. So this is book 2 of the Cambridge Bookshop series. I just think it will be really cool to read about. Our main character is Molly Kimball, and so I believe she is a bookshop owner. Some kind of mystery, some kind of murder mystery is happening in the book. Book 2, Love a Cozy Mystery. So then we also have been approved to read The Lost Witch. So it's a fantasy romance about a time-traveling witch who loses her memory after waking up in her own home 100 years later. And like, this is the beautiful cover. Looking forward to reading these ones. I will definitely be reading them sometime soon, but I don't believe they get published until like August and maybe September. So yeah, I do have a lot of reading to do, but I have really awesome books to read. And so I think that this will be great. I'll finish as many books that I can from my July TBR, and then we will have an August TBR game. I'm like already excited for that. And I'm like, Sarah, you need to calm down and finish these books first. Okay, so let me know what you guys are reading, and let me know what you are excited to pick up as your next book. The weather is very warm where I am at. We have some air conditioning, thankfully, and I'm going to go ahead, read from wherever I left off, and we are going to have a good afternoon and evening reading. That's everything for today. Bye!